You are live. Yay! We are live right now, and I am with the awesome Barbara Winter. Thank you so much for joining us today. We were talking beforehand. We've known each other 20-something years and never talked in person. Isn't it? That's kind of weird, but kind of awesome. Oh, I think I don't even know how I first heard about it was Winning Ways newsletter that introduced me to you. And I'm not sure how I knew about that. It was either a seminar I went to or something. So
yeah, I'm always fascinated by how people find us. It's all different ways.
Because it's been so long now, I don't remember what. I think it was what made me think is one of my friends that does Prince's House. Her and I hung around a lot together, and she probably was getting that newsletter because I always tried to see what she was doing and saw if I could do it too. So that would be my guess. But what we were talking about beforehand, why to me it was so important that I wanted you to come on is because most of the people that I connect with on social media are in direct sales that are sales reps for companies. Mm-hmm. And I find it actually disturbing how little they consider themselves as being entrepreneurs, when really we are, because there's no protections as an independent sales representative. You're not an employee, you get no benefits or anything like that. And there's no guarantee that any company will continue to sell that way. So I like the way you think about things where you think more of what can I do to support myself rather than somebody telling you what to do. Can you tell me how that all got started for you?
Well, I grew up in a really small town in Minnesota where everybody was self-employed. And I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, I see nobody ever told me I could do that. So when I was in school, it was assumed I would go to college and get a degree and get a job, which is what I did. And I became a high school English teacher. And about the fourth year of that, I remember thinking, I can now predict with absolute certainty where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be doing hour by hour, week by week, month by month. It was like Groundhog Day.
Oh.
I realized that if I kept doing this, my whole life was just going to be the same cycle. And it was terrifying. It took me another year to quit. And then I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was still living in this small town. So one day I got the idea, I'd heard about a state employee service in a bigger town. And I thought, well, I'll just go visit them and see what they got. And lo and behold, I walked out of there with a job. And the job I got was being an employment counselor. Now, I don't know what I want to do or how to figure it out, but I'm not getting paid to counsel other people. But I see it now as really an important part of my journey because for the year I spent there, every day I talked to people and it was like almost nobody knew what they wanted to do or how to figure it out. And I realized we really don't have the resources for doing that, which we should be getting when we're kids. We don't. So I left that job when my daughter was born. And then a couple of years later, I became, believe it or not, an interior decorator for Ethan Allen, also with no experience or training. I don't even know how that happened. But when that was over, I kind of felt I'd had enough. And about the same time, I discovered personal growth, which I had never been exposed to. And I started reading personal growth material. I think I went to some seminars. And at that time, everything was written by men for men. There was no material that even included women. And it was also the time the women's movement was just getting going. And my family and I had moved to Wisconsin. So I was in this new place where nobody knew me. And I thought, I'm going to start my own business. And the business I started was called The Successful Woman. And it was really to share things that I had learned in my own personal growth journey. But what I discovered was most of the women who came to my seminars were really motivated by the women's movement, but the message was move up the corporate ladder. That was what we were fighting for. And I would leave a seminar and think, they're so bright and creative. Why don't they just start their own business? So it was a few more years until I got around to saying, that's really what I want to do. I want to help people become self-employed. And one of the things that I think is really important, and it took me a while to realize that, is that as we become entrepreneurial, our thinking changes a lot. And I compare it to learning a new language. I've been trying to learn Spanish on my own. No habla español. As far as I got. And I realize, though, that the metaphor is really valid, that there is a lot to learn. And I think that for people who are going down this path, the ones that are the most successful are people who are curious and willing lifelong learners, and realizing that when we come in, we're going to learn new stuff. We're going to do things we've never done before. And that's really exciting. And we also have to recognize that most of us, I would say all of us, who were born after 1900, have really grown up thinking that when we're adults, it's about getting a schedule and following it every single day. And so for most of us, routine has become kind of a saboteur. And the exciting thing to me about self-employment is there's always something new to learn, and I just love it. You know, for instance, when I started my business doing seminars, it was like, one of the things I really wanted to do is travel. And all of a sudden I realized I could create a business that actually pays me to travel. And I was very surprised. And those years when I was living in Minneapolis, I amassed over 1 million frequent flyer points.
Whoa.
And I had, one time I was going to London, which was like my favorite place that I would go several times a year. And was coming through security, and the security officer was going through my passport and turning pages and turning pages and turning pages, looking for a place to stamp it. And he said, what is the purpose of your trip, business or pleasure? I said, pleasure. And he said, you mean there's something left for you to see? And I got my passport, started up the escalator to baggage at Gatwick, and burst into tears. And I thought, he doesn't know what he said. Because all those years where I thought I couldn't figure out how I was going to even get to London once. And here I am on my, 20-some trip. So that, that kind of willingness to really be open to our business taking us in new places is incredibly exciting. And hanging out with people who think creatively is also really powerful. It's a lot different than, I think about what the teacher's lounge was like when I was teaching. Every day for an hour, we would sit in there and complain. And then we're supposed to go back and go into the classroom and be excited about it. And I know that's true with employee places. But when you get a group of people who are self-employed together, it's not like that.
No.
It's like, oh, you're not going to believe what just happened to me. That kind of thing. I love that excitement.
Where I first heard about thinking like an entrepreneur, I think, was in Lead the Field, Earl Nightingale, where he was saying, instead of saying, no one will give me a job, start thinking, what service could I be where I could get paid for that? And I think that's the first place that I heard it.
Yeah, and I think there are some questions. One of the questions I tell people, to ask a lot is, who has a problem I know how to solve? That's really what we do as entrepreneurs, is we're problem solvers. And I also realize that that's part of the change in our thinking, because I'm sure that I grew up thinking problems were punishments from God. I didn't know there were opportunities, but they are. And that's really what our businesses do, is that we solve problems for people. And we've all had that experience, if we've been in business for a while, seeing somebody just go, oh, I never thought of that. I haven't done that before, and that's incredibly thrilling.
In direct sales, I told you some of this before, but bear with me, sorry.
That's okay.
In direct sales, lots of times people start to think that they're a salesman and they're almost like an employee. So they don't take responsibility for their own training, for example, or their own schedule to do, and they wait for someone to tell them what to do. And I think that once I listened to Lead the Field, what I started thinking was a little bit different. So when I made it to the top of the pay plan in the sales in my company, they were having me go around and speak about it. And I thought to myself, gee, this has taken away a lot of time from my family, my job, my business. I wonder if people get paid for this. And sure enough, I looked it up. Sure enough, people do get paid. So then I joined the National Speakers Association, and I actually started booking myself. And then when I went to their meetings, they were saying, how you really get paid as a speaker is by writing a book. So I wrote like 3 books. And I think, to me now, I try to think, how could I make this worthwhile as far as earnings? Because if I want to stay self-employed, not have a boss, I need to always have income coming in.
I'm
that lens.
A big advocate of having a portfolio of profit centers. And, I think it takes us a while, maybe a year or two, when we're first self-employed, to kind of see the cycles that go with what we're doing. And then we can start filling in. We know, I can remember one time thinking, nothing's happening. Is it over? And then it was like, it's July, Barbara. People have any business in July. Everything came to a screeching halt in adult ed during that time. So once we learn that, like, I knew this guy, and I just loved this idea so much, who started a window washing business in Seattle. And he mostly, I think, had business customers. So he wasn't doing houses so much. Anyway, in the wintertime, window washing isn't a big requirement in Seattle. So he started a second profit center, which I think is utterly brilliant, installing Christmas decorations, yard decorations.
Oh, nice.
And he even rents space. So if one of his customers says, well, I don't have room in my garage for all this stuff, no problem. And I'll bring them back next year. And I just thought that was, that whole seasonal thing was kind of interesting. And I think that's also something that when we are working for ourselves, we can think about how our business can be different at different times of the year to go with the seasons or holidays or, things that are going on out in the world.
One of my friends that does, matter of fact, she's listening. She does Uber too. And I actually think that's brilliant, not just because it's another profit center, but because she's meeting a whole bunch more people. So it
Exactly.
will help her sales too.
Yep.
So to me, anything that increases the number of people that you see and can increase your income is a win
Yeah.
to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think she kind of felt bad because she was doing, I'm not sure why. Most people in direct sales feel bad if they're doing other stuff when it really,
No.
no. Right, everything should be right. Because if you want to stay self-employed, because I don't think you have control over
Well,
what the companies do. So you have to, that's the whole point of being self-employed.
and I think the other thing that's so wonderful about self-employment is that we can each design it to fit who we are and what our goals are and how much time we want to spend and what else we need to leave room for in our lives. And no two people ever do it exactly the same way. And that's very interesting. But I also think it's really important that no matter what we're doing as a self employed person, that we have some connection with other people who are entrepreneurial. It really makes a huge difference.
Oh,
And
I agree. Do you belong to any organizations for that, or
I
I
do,
know I do, but oh,
um, I do not, and I'm trying to think in the past, not so much. What has really made a difference in my life was two times where I had a best friend who was self-employed, and I remember one day having a really bad day, and I called my friend Chris, and she answered the phone. I said, "Make me laugh." She said, "Just a moment, please." And she came back and she said, "I had to go get my folder of cartoons and humor." I said, "You have a folder?" If I find something I think is funny, I save it. Great idea. And by the end of the phone call, of course, I was fine again because she made me laugh several times with that. But, it was somebody who wasn't self-employed probably would not have, they'd say, "Oh, you're having a bad day." "Oh, yeah, I have those all the time."
Oh, right.
Yeah. So,
And it's funny because I end up not even necessarily on purpose, but most of the people I deal with on a regular basis are self-employed because I'm using their, like Mr. Greg, my handyman, he's his own company. The generator people that just came here, I know the man that owns that company. I just end up dealing with a lot of self-employed people.
I have to tell you a great story. When I lived in Minneapolis, I lived in an apartment and the dishwasher broke. And so I called the property management people and they sent this guy over. And he's, working on my dishwasher. And he started telling me his story. And I said, "How did you start doing this?" Well, he said, my wife was killed in an automobile accident and I became a single parent and I couldn't have a job. I had to be more accessible to my kids. So I started buying and flipping houses. And I, learned how to do all this kind of stuff. And then he said, I really made a lot of money. So I started a second thing, investing, and I kept making more money. And I said to him, "Oh, so now do you work for the property management company?" And it was like I had really insulted him. He said, "No, I have my own business." And he said, "I get to drive around in my truck. And that thing I just did on your dishwasher, I never did that before." And I thought, that guy gets it. It's like we could just have new adventures every single day. And if it's fixing something on a dishwasher you never fixed before, he probably went home and, celebrated.
That's kind of neat, though. Yeah.
Well, and it was so funny because when I said you work for property management, I could tell he was insulted. I would think such a thing.
I do that too, though. I don't mean to, but sometimes people, because I have a big team in my sales organization, they assume that I'm a corporate employee, and I'm like, oh no, 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 no. That's insulting to me, and it shouldn't be. It just is. Anyway, I want to tell you, we've got people on here from Massachusetts and Ohio and Tennessee and Georgia. And if you're on Michigan, Tamara, I see everybody here. Scott, it's on the right. I don't know if you can see their comments too.
I'm not getting the screen here. I'm sorry.
I think if you click on the word comments, you'll see them. It's on the right-hand side, but I can read them. I can read them if people say so. Yeah. Oh, and Molly Stone Bibb's on. Yay. And Penny's on. And Britta's on. Yay. And somebody, Linda from New Jersey's on. If you have any questions you want me to ask Barbara, I can read them if you want to ask me. Okay. And Arizona's in the house. That must be Marie. Judy's on from South Dakota. Yeah, we got friends from all over.
I love that. And it's so fascinating to me too, because I have done a lot of seminars in Europe, and it's just astonishing to me that I actually know these people in all parts of the world. And the thing that doing seminars in different places has taught me is that entrepreneurial spirit is universal. And I think I also grew up thinking, oh, this is the land of opportunity. And that it was an American thing, but it's not. And it's
worldwide. Yeah.
I just love it.
And, me and one of the people on the call here is Scott. We talk about this a lot. He said he likes the term profit center, by the way, which I love as well. But Scott and I are always talking about the fact that we see sales reps complain that the company coach doesn't coach them enough or doesn't give them enough instruction or whatever. So he and I have this thing about I'm trying to get representatives, sales reps for a company to realize that they are the ones responsible for those things. It's not the company. The company's only responsibility, and even that they can change, it's up to them, is to provide the opportunity for us to buy from them and resell at a profit.
Right.
That's it. We're applying for a sales rep. So it's up to us to be sellers and to learn how to sell. It's not up to them to make sure we know how to sell.
Right.
So, and I'm surprised how many people don't take responsibility for that. They don't. It's a lot. It's a lot of people. And I'm not sure how to get that message across that we're responsible. You know what I mean? We are the ones. Molly wanted me to ask you, what has Barbara's biggest challenge in your life or business been?
Boy,
that's too big of a question.
I don't know the answer. I can't think of it right now. I mean, one of the things that I discovered is, for me, and I think it's for most entrepreneurs, is that it's an evolutionary process. And that, you keep seeing new opportunities, and the more committed you are to it, the more opportunity seems to appear. And I think probably the biggest challenge has been this last year for me, where I have been in isolation and even stopped publishing my newsletter because I just felt there were too many hands involved in that. And so it's on hiatus. I didn't stop it permanently, but I really miss that. And meeting rooms with a group of enthusiastic lifelong learners is my natural habitat. And of course, I really miss that.
When you say concentrating on it, you mean being self-employed.
Right.
Right. Yeah, because I think that's the thing that people don't realize when they're a sales rep. It's not working for someone else. We're not working for someone else. We are working for ourselves. And we have to always keep that in mind that we're responsible if we want to not have a boss to always be looking at ways to bring in money.
And I think the other part of the other piece of this puzzle, and maybe a better answer for the question that Molly asked, is that the biggest challenge, I think, is dealing with our own resistance and really building our own self-esteem and learning what that means, and continuing to nurture it. I mean, it's amazing to me when I think about how much inspirational stuff I still read every single day. And that's very, very important to me. And, it expands our own personal world. So
you'd be proud of Molly, actually, because I know her story because she's one of my buddies. But she not only is she a sales rep for a company, but her big passion is cooking or baking and cooking. So she's actually doing an online show right now, and she sells some of her products that she makes, and she's working on a cookbook. So she's finding ways to expand her profit centers. I love that. I'm going to use that from now on. So she has more profit centers, but she's always done some, like she was in one of those compilation books with me where we paid an amount and we got a set of books and we were a chapter in it. And she sold the books for a profit. So she's always been thinking like that too, I think.
Perfect.
Oh, Molly said, do you have any reading suggestions for us?
Ooh.
Her book, Barbara's book.
Yes,
Yeah, make sure you get that.
Which I really, I realized when I was writing the book, my editors, I had a different subtitle, which was like Winning Ways for Starting a Business in the 90s. And she's like, this book's going to have a long shelf life. And I didn't know what she meant. I mean, by long shelf life, I thought, what's that, 10 years, something? I don't know. When it first came out, it's been updated, but when the first edition didn't have words like internet, we didn't have that word, all those things. So, but, I also realized early on with the whole making a living without a job thing is that people evolve to the point where they're ready to read it and ready to come to the seminars. It's part of our own personal growth where we say, wait a minute, maybe I don't want to do what everybody told me I was supposed to do. I'm kind of bored with this. So I read a lot of, when I find a writer I like, I really read everything I can get my hands on. I am a big, big fan of Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art, and I go back and revisit that. I've become a big fan of Tosha Silver, and she has a really great new book out about money. And I think for a lot of us, and I talk about this sometimes, making peace with prosperity is kind of the last frontier for most of us. That's really a tricky one. And a lot of us have some growing to do in that area. And I am certainly one of those people. And it's amazing how learning to change my attitude about it and not being afraid of it. And I realized at one point in my life that I had this unconscious belief that if I carried money, someone would harm me.
Oh.
Yeah. And I started carrying a $100 bill after that. And I have never been without one. And I had read that in some book that said, carry a large bill in your purse, and every time you go to spend some money, you'll say, "Oh, I've got plenty." And it seems like a silly little thing, but it's big. It's really big. It's like, oh yeah, there's always $100 at least left in there.
Yeah, I think that whole thing about the prosperity mindset didn't. I think the first time I heard that was like the Jim Rohn. He's like one of my favorites, and I did see him in person. But it was that is a whole different thing where the thing, matter of fact, I wasn't prepared for when I started earning more money is feeling guilty about it, which sounds crazy. Why would I feel guilty about? But I did. I mean, I don't think I do as much. But the other thing is that the people around me weren't necessarily different. So they didn't get, like I have relatives still that say, why did you get that house? You're just going to lose that house. That's too much house for you. You know what I mean? Right. And right. But to me, right, they think I should have stayed in the trailer park, which there's nothing wrong with trailer parks. But I didn't grow up as a little girl going, ooh, I hope I get to live in a trailer park. So I work hard for the house because that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
But all those people didn't change. I didn't count on that either. I thought they would all, I don't know, get nicer or more supportive, and that wasn't going to happen. So there was a point where I just had to draw the line in the sand and say, the only person that's really going to be happy for my development and my income or whatever is me. And that's okay. I can't expect them all to be happy for me.
Yeah, that is okay.
Yeah, it was a big learning curve though, because and the other thing is I thought for a while I could save the world like all of my relatives, and no, I even had somebody say, "Are you still doing that sales thing?" Yeah, it's working out pretty good. I mean, what do I say? Yeah, I'm still doing it. Because they said, don't you think a real job might work out better for you? Well, not really. Right. But they all didn't change. And I guess I thought they would once they saw this working out. But so you have to be okay with it, that they're not going to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's so interesting that we're doing this on International Women's Day. I was surprised when I got up this morning how much attention was paid to it on Facebook. I don't remember that from the past. And then I thought, oh, I have to make a Kiva loan today. I am a big supporter of Kiva, which supports women entrepreneurs all over the world. And again, if you don't know how universal entrepreneurial spirit is, that is one of the most inspiring websites to visit, because there are people everywhere who just need a little support to either expand their business or start their business. And they're all women, and I love that. So I made a donation.
Tell me about that, because I don't know about that.
Kiva.org. Oh, you're going to love it.
For me. Spell it for me.
Kiva.org.
KIVA?
KIVA.org. And you can choose. So I just choose women to support.
So it's microloans, and then it goes back and they have to pay it back and stuff, right?
Yes. And you start with a $25 loan. And when it gets paid back, it goes into your account and you can loan it again. So I have loaned like $6,000.
Whoa.
Invested $50 over the years. And that is so exciting to me. And it's the most brilliant concept.
Oh, that's neat. Oh, I'm going to do that. Thank you for that. I wrote that one down. And what a good day to do it too.
It was so exciting to go over there, because their homepage is all different women's businesses today, and I had a hard time picking one. May go back and make a second loan today. I don't know. I just love that organization so much. But I was thinking about this, with International Women's Day. When I started doing seminars, most of the people who came to my seminars were women. And even when I started The Successful Woman, of course, that was all for women. But when I started Making a Living Without a Job, and partly that was because most of those were done through adult ed classes, and more women than men take adult ed classes anyway. But I really was surprised at how many women were really looking very seriously about doing something new with their lives.
What's funny? I don't know if you've noticed this, but I have a lot of pet peeves, but this is one of them. I have a 15-year-old, and it's unusual because I'm 57. So I adopted when I was 42. So I have a different perspective when I hang around with the moms. But I was shocked, and not in a good way, when so many of the young moms were acting like them not working, and I don't mean working a job, I mean not producing income somehow, that they thought that was a good thing for their kids and a lifestyle choice that I wasn't understanding. And they said but to me, being 42, all I could think of is they're not realizing they're limiting their own freedom. If they have a problem, they have no income, they're not going to be able to fix their problem, like get out of an abusive relationship or whatever it is. Or if the spouse, something happens, they're going to be stuck. And I'm surprised how many young women, at least in my area here, they actually thought I was being mean and unsupportive because I was saying, oh, don't not have income. Even if you do direct sales on the side or something at night or babysit or whatever you do, you need to have your own money. And they thought I didn't understand. Have you seen that at all? Or is that something?
I haven't seen that so much because the young parents are not people in my universe so much. But I think the interesting thing is that I have very entrepreneurial grandchildren, and I don't know who would influence them, but they set a goal and then they figure out how to do it. And my youngest grandson has become kind of a professional actor. He just did a commercial. He's 10 years old. He just recorded a commercial for Valspar Paints the other day, which will be airing soon. And when I found out how much he gets paid to do this, by the time he's ready to go to college, he has got his money in place.
Nice.
And they are, all three of them are really, working on their own financial independence. So I think it's actually, when our kids see us being happy, which is another thing. I mean, how many kids see their parents come home from work grumpy and worn out and with, no interest in talking to anybody or doing anything else. And this is a whole different thing. And I can remember even when I first started doing my newsletter, and also since I've moved here, I engaged my grandchildren in helping me with the mailing. And my daughter used to help with the mailing even when she was in college. And I just, let them be part of it and see what happens. And
I think that's what I see in general too with the younger ones. I guess that's why I was so surprised that there was still a group of 20-something women who didn't realize they needed their own money. Then on the opposite flip side of that is I'm 57. So I see people that are older than me, colleagues of mine at business, that are somehow they were married and they're somehow now not married. So either the spouse dies or the spouse leaves or the spouse something, and they are all of a sudden needing to support themselves, and so many of them can't do it.
Yeah.
And so I want those women to talk to the young women and say, don't, no, don't, because they taking 20 years off to raise a kid may make you feel better, but not having income and taking a 20-year break from being an entrepreneur even is hard to get past that. To spend 20 years not earning.
And I think it's so interesting too, is that what really has expanded the possibility is that working from home has become okay. When I started The Successful Woman, I started it in my TV room. I had a card table with a typewriter. That was my office. And I went to great lengths to conceal the fact that I worked from home because that was just not done. And I can remember I had sent a press release to the Madison, Wisconsin newspaper, and I got a call from the reporter, and she said, I'd like to interview you. And I was like, oh, terrific. She said, great. Can I come to your office? I said, why don't I come to yours? She said, okay. A sigh of relief. And it turned out that was absolutely wonderful. She did an interview, took my picture, and it appeared on the front page of the lifestyle section of the paper, and my seminars just started to explode.
Nice. Yeah, Scott says you can't put your profit center on hold. He and I are going to say profit center from now on, I can tell you that. Thank you. This whole conversation was worth it just for those words, by the way.
Yeah,
we love that.
Totally profit centers.
Yeah, and somebody else said, I'm in, let's see, I have an 18-year-old. The reason I'm not saying your name is because you didn't go on StreamYard / Facebook and agree for us to see your name. So I don't know who wrote this, but she said, I have an 18-year-old and I'm 56. He is now asking me how he can own his own business. I have businesses. He wants to be an Avon man and take it further than Mom has. Lisa, you are teaching your child an option she has for her own life. Yeah, see, I think we, the ones of us that are entrepreneurs, that's the most important thing we can do is set an example, not just saying it. But yeah, because my kid doesn't know. I think that must be Mary Becker, isn't it, Mary? Because Mary's got an 18-year-old son. Because people will look at what you do more than what you say.
Absolutely.
Always. So I think that is important. I just wish those young, see, I'm back to that. I wish the young moms would look at what I'm doing. Because, I don't know why it even bothers me, but I know at some point they're going to be in a pinch because they didn't keep bringing in income. They're either going to, when the kid gets old and moves out, they're going to be sitting there with no income. And then if something happens to their, because most women are at some point of their life going to have to support themselves. That's just the way it is. So I want to take those young girls, which is crazy. Why do I let it bother me? But it does, because I know they're going to be in a pickle. So I know.
The thing I've always said too about my whole making a living without a job thing is I'm not an evangelist. I'm not trying to convert people. I'm here to be a resource for people who have already made the decision and just need some tools to work with. And, some reinforcement.
Well, see, and that's a better way to think of it, because I kind of almost want to be the you should work evangelist.
Yeah, no, I don't do that.
I guess you can't. Maybe if I could find a way to get the older women that have got stuck to talk to the younger women or write a book about it. and share the book with them. There is actually a book, The Feminine Mistake, not Mystique,
Oh,
Mistake. And it's actually about that very thing, is that,
I haven't.
yeah, it's good. I really like that book, but it's about the fact that most of us are going to at some point have to support ourselves, no matter how fabulous our spouse is, and
Yeah.
that we should always look for ways to support ourselves. So,
I,
it was Lynette. I'm
yeah,
sorry, Lynette. I thought you were Mary. Lynette, it was Lynette from Arizona that said that a few minutes ago
great.
about her son. Yes, yes, yes. No, what were you going to say? I just interrupted you. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. No, I think that for it's been one of the not only have I been able to support myself all of these years since like 1986, but I'm the only income earner here. I'm single, but I've had a couple employees all this time for the last 20 something years, and it's when someone asks me what I'm most proud of, it's actually that I was able to, because like my assistant, she works for me, so she has a boss. But the ability to be able to offer employment in my little town, she was driving bus and hated it. And then her and I worked together all these years. And I'm happy to have been able to offer employment in my town.
Yeah,
That's,
I love to support businesses. And, if I have a choice of that, my money goes to them. And yeah, but again, it's like um, self-reliance is really, I didn't realize it or give it a name, I don't think, to begin with. But when my journey started out, that's what I really wanted. I wanted to be self-reliant and not dependent on my husband at the time. And it turned out to be a really wise decision that I made.
no, and I think that's so important. Even if nothing ever happens, the fact is you should be able to support yourself and your children if you have little children. Because I think those young moms that I have the thing about, they don't realize that they think that by not working, they're doing the kids something extra by giving them 100% of their attention. But by not earning, they're also, if something happens, they won't be able to fix the situation. They won't be able to support them.
Right?
So I think that's really, really important. That's my thing, I guess, my thing. So, because I'm just happy that I haven't had that situation. I've been the one.
But, certainly the thing I know is that when we are doing work that we love, we're a lot nicer to be around. And we
Oh
actually,
yeah.
I think we do our kids a favor by showing them that. So,
Well, and it helps. Lynette saying, I think even if a spouse supports the household, having your own income, being a business owner, having dreams and goals of your own allows you to be your own person. Self-development, complementing your spouse's efforts, even. Yeah, makes you
exactly.
a better wife, a better mother, a better everything. If you're,
And your world expands, there you get more people that you connect to. And um, the rewards are just enormous. And income is just one of them. It's
no, like you, I've got to travel a lot. Some of it has been from the speaking, but most of it was from uh, earning trips for my sales team. Um, and I didn't realize my mother also was doing this for many years, and I didn't know she hadn't flown on a plane before we went on the first company trip. And now, her and I both, I couldn't tell you how many times I've flown, because it's been a lot. We go. I don't know, 5, 6 times a year normally in a normal year. My kid doesn't understand that it's actually unusual. In our state, I think they were saying like 75% of the kids don't leave the state. And my kid, the first trip he went on was 2 months old. He went to Las Vegas on a business trip with me.
Well, of course.
So it's just right that the travel has made such a huge difference
Yeah,
in my whole perspective. I love traveling.
I do too.
Don't
So,
you don't you think it broadens what I like? I live in rural New Hampshire. Everyone's the same here. I wanted my kid to see different people. You know what I mean?
that certainly was where I grew up in that small town in Minnesota too. It was um, very everybody was it was pretty similar sorts of things. And I when I moved to Las Vegas in 2005, I think it was, I had a lot of people were kind of surprised by that. Wow, hey, you're living like I just need to shake up my life. And I said I've been living so comfortably here in Minneapolis, and I'm a little nervous about that. I got to shake things up. And I said, I asked myself, what is the opposite of Minneapolis? And the answer that came was Las Vegas. Nothing like it. I loved living there. I was there for 4 years, and probably at least twice a month, I would get an email from someone, sometimes from Europe, sometimes from different parts of the US, saying, I'm coming to Las Vegas. Would you have time for lunch? So I was always meeting people
Nice.
from out of town. And when I moved here, which I did at the request of my grandchildren, kind of, I I think I had a conversation with my sister, and I said, I don't think that people are going to be coming to Santa Clarita with me. And my sister said, Barbara, millions of people come to Magic Mountain amusement park every year. I said, those aren't my people.
Oh, that's pretty funny though.
But I live in this condo, and I've had many self-employed neighbors, and that's been really fun too. So
Yeah, I live in rural New Hampshire, and I don't know if that's why, but there does seem to be probably an unusual amount of self-employed people here. And you know what I find too, it's kind of hard to understand is, but maybe it's because, like you said, we didn't have internet. We didn't have internet to rely on when I first had to work for myself. But I see a lot of people now, they think it's either or. And I think that everybody, you should look at all your options always.
and,
You know,
and not either or and.
yeah. How
And
can I parlay that into some income to support myself?
yeah.
You know what I mean? And when I'm buying something, I usually say, I wonder if there's a company that has an affiliate program so that I could buy this and earn money from it if I really like it. That, I always try to think about that when and people do say derogatory things about that, by the way. Look at her, she's always trying to make money, and I'm happy with that. I consider that a compliment
Yeah,
because I haven't had a boss over it all these years.
well, it's interesting because where I live now is about 30 miles north of LA. And I believe this whole place evolved as a bedroom community. So there are many people who live in my complex who make the commute. It's like maybe an hour each way if traffic is moving.
Oh.
I can't imagine spending 2 hours a day in my car. And our condos have very small kitchens, and I finally figured out why after being frustrated that I have this tiny little kitchen. Like, oh, they didn't think I was a good cook.
They thought y'all were going to take out all the time?
Take out and, pour some milk on your cereal in the morning before you get out the door. I don't know.
Oh, I think that's
So
funny.
that's why it's been lovely when I have had self-employed neighbors, and I just love to meet people who are self-employed and find out what they do and why they do it and how they got started. And I just find that really inspiring. And people who love what they do like to talk about it.
No, that's true. That's true.
I learn stuff, and I'm an interrogator.
No, that's good though. Whenever I meet somebody like that, I learn something.
People who sit next to me on an airplane are probably going to be interviewed.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite flights was I had a guy who sat down, and I always find out what they do right away. And he was a language teacher. And I was like, oh, I've been wanting to learn another language. So I started asking him questions, and finally I said, well, what's the best way to become bilingual? You know what he said?
What?
Be a kid.
Oh, that's pretty funny. Oh, did he say hang around with someone else who speaks that language? What was his thing?
I actually had neighbors who just moved that had two little kids, I think a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and the parents were originally from Colombia, and the grandma lived with them. And the kids and the grandma taught, and parents spoke Spanish when they were home. When they came out the front door, they switched to English. And I was so jealous of these little children who were bilingual. And I'm still struggling with basic.
No habla español. Yeah, that's what I can say too. Or caliente. I used to say that. Yeah, that's about it though. Well, that is awesome. So we're just about rounding up to the time too.
Yeah,
Make sure you visit Barbara's website, joyfullyjobless.com. If you don't have her book, she sells it there. You have a link to the book and the newsletter, I think.
actually, if you like to buy the book, and you should like to buy, order it from Barnes and Noble or somebody else, because I can't ship right now.
Oh, yeah.
Isolation.
Good point.
So I can't ship myself, but I'm perfectly happy with sending you to an online seller.
And the name of the book is
Making a Living Without a Job.
Awesome.
I had it on the table in the other room, and then I had to switch in the office for my computer. Let me show you the cover. I'll grab one. Do I have one? Close at hand? I think so.
Look at all the books on her bookshelf.
Oh, and that's
so awesome.
Tip of the iceberg.
Oh, there it is. Yay, there it is.
Oh, I'm so confused with this.
That's awesome. Oh, I put the cover of the book is in the meeting announcement too. That's awesome.
Great.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much. Now, what I'm going to do is this is going to go up on my YouTube channel, so some other people will see it too. When I put end broadcast, that'll put you and me back in the green room. So stay there for a minute so I can get your address, because I need to send you some brownies or something, because that's what I do. Okay. Yes, that's it. I have a checklist of what I need to do. So stay on for a minute so I can find out which you like better. Brownies, cookies, or caramels. So mull that over for a second and I'll be right with you. And thank you very much, everyone. I'll have this up on the YouTube channel shortly. And thank you very much, Barbara.
My pleasure.